The silence after that moment felt heavier than anything I had ever carried. It clung to the walls, to the air between us, to my skin. I could still feel the warmth of his breath on my cheek, a ghost of something that almost happened, or maybe something I imagined because I wanted it too much. He stepped back first. A soft, careful movement. Like if he moved too fast, the world would acknowledge what nearly exploded between us. I watched the shape of his shoulders as he exhaled. He wasn't looking at me. He kept his gaze low, fixed on the floor, as if the truth might spill out if he met my eyes. Did you? I started, but the words died halfway. His fingers trembled when he rubbed the back of his neck. It was the smallest detail, but I noticed it like it was highlighted, circled, underlined. He was shaking, and somehow, that scared me more than anything. I shouldn't have, he murmured, voice thin, frayed around the edges. I don't know what that was. The room felt too small. I could hear the electricity buzzing in the walls, the distant city noise outside, the uneven rhythm of his breathing. My chest tightened. I didn't know what to say that wouldn't make everything shatter. Part of me wanted to step toward him, place a hand on his arm, tell him it was okay, that whatever had pulled us together wasn't wrong. But another part, a cautious and frightened part, whispered that maybe touching him now would push him over a line he wasn't ready to cross. He turned away, running both hands through his hair. I'm not like this, he said, barely audible. I'm not. I swallowed hard. The word gay hovered unspoken, thick in the space between us. He didn't say it, but I could hear how close he was to choking on it. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. Maybe it was me. Maybe I imagined everything. Maybe I read him wrong from the beginning, the lingering glances, the too long hugs, the late-night confessions whispered in the dark. Maybe I had created a story out of loneliness, but then I remembered the way he leaned in first. How his fingers brushed my jaw like he was memorizing its shape. The way his eyes softened, widened, pleaded, that wasn't imagination. I took one slow breath, grounding myself. Look, we don't have to define anything, I said quietly. You don't have to explain. I need to know if you're okay. He froze. His back straightened. For a moment, he didn't breathe, then he whispered, I don't know. The honesty in those words hit me harder than any confession could have. He finally turned, and when he did, his eyes were glassy, not exactly tears, but close enough that I felt something twist inside me. His expression was a storm, fear, confusion, longing, anger at himself. It all lived there at once. I took a half step toward him. He didn't move away, but he didn't move closer either. We stood like that, suspended between two decisions neither of us had the courage to make. His voice cracked slightly when he spoke again. Everything's different now. I nodded. Yeah. And I don't know what you want from me. The truth? I wasn't sure either. I want you to be honest, I said. Even if it scares you. He let out a shaky laugh. Not happy, not sad, just broken. Everything scares me right now. He sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, head hanging. The mattress dipped under his weight, and something about that simple movement, something so normal, made the moment even more unbearable. I slowly sat beside him, leaving a careful few inches between us. I could feel the heat of his body radiating toward me, like a magnet constantly pulling yet refusing to close the distance. He didn't look at me. Not once. Instead, he whispered, did you want it to happen? I closed my eyes for a moment. There it was, the question that could break everything open or seal it shut forever. When I answered, my voice came out soft but steady. Yes. His fingers twitched. A sharp breath escaped him. The room felt like it tilted. He didn't pull away, but he didn't respond either. We just sat there, breathing the same tense air, two people trapped between what almost happened and what might still happen, if either of us dared to move. A car horn blared outside. A pipe rattled in the wall. Life kept going, unaware of the war happening in that tiny room. He whispered, barely a breath, I don't know what to do now. I swallowed. We don't have to decide tonight. He nodded slowly, but his jaw clenched like he was holding back 1,000 words. The distance between us remained, small, but impossibly wide. The moment lingered, unresolved, unfinished. A half-open door neither of us stepped through, and somewhere inside me, a quiet fear formed. What if he never does? If you'd like, I can now write. White heavy check mark the climax, white heavy check mark the resolution, white heavy check mark visual prompts for this section, white heavy check mark title plus description plus hashtags. Just tell me what you want next. The rest of the morning passed with an uncomfortable quietness, the kind that seeped into the walls and settled between us like dust. Armin ate quickly, barely glancing in my direction, while I pretended to read an article I couldn't even comprehend. Every few minutes, his phone buzzed, short vibrations, not the long alert of group chats or spam notifications, private messages. He never used to get those. Are you working late today? He asked suddenly, still not looking up. Maybe. Depends on the manager. Another lie. I wasn't scheduled for anything. I just wanted to avoid coming home to whatever secret this new version of him was hiding. He nodded slowly, as if my answer meant something important to him, something strategic, almost like he was planning around it. That bothered me more than I expected. By noon, he had left the apartment with a rushed, almost suspicious kind of energy. No hug. No goodbye. No lingering look. Just a quick "see you" thrown over his shoulder as he closed the door. The moment it clicked shut, the silence felt heavier. I stared at the door for a long time before I finally moved, pacing the living room with restless steps. Something didn't feel right. It hadn't felt right for weeks, but today was different. Today there was a pattern I couldn't ignore: the late nights, the sudden smiles at his phone, the new cologne he claimed was on sale, the 2 a.m. door sound I wasn't sure I imagined, and now, him asking if I'd be home late. I tried to shake off the uneasiness, but it clung to me like humidity. I walked into his room, technically the second bedroom, but it might as well have been the center of my universe, and stood there, staring at the mess he always left behind. His jacket lay crumpled on the bed, the one he rarely wore. The desk lamp was still on. His closet door was left slightly open, a soft glow of warm light leaking out like it was hiding something. I shouldn't look. I knew I shouldn't, but I did. Inside, everything seemed normal, except for a small, folded piece of paper tucked into the pocket of his jacket. It peeked out just enough for me to notice it. Without thinking, I reached for it. A phone number, just a phone number, but underneath it, in handwriting I didn't recognize, were 3 words: "Had a great time." My throat tightened. I dropped the paper as if it burned. I shouldn't have seen that. I shouldn't have gone through his things. I shouldn't have allowed my feelings to turn me into someone I wasn't proud of, but I had also seen enough to know that something was happening behind my back, and he wasn't even trying to hide it. Well, around 5 p.m., the sky had turned the same shade as bruised skin, heavy with rain clouds. The wind pushed against the window panes, rattling them occasionally, as if reminding me that the storm outside wasn't the only one I'd have to deal with tonight. I kept checking the time, waiting for Armin to text, to call, to say anything, but there was nothing. Just a silence that echoed louder with every passing minute. By 7:30, the apartment felt too big, too empty. I sat on the couch with the lights dimmed, the TV playing some random show I wasn't watching. My thoughts kept circling the same question: who was he with? I hated how desperate that sounded, even in my own head. Then, the sound. A soft click, the exact same one I thought I heard at 2 a.m. The front door. My heartbeat stuttered. I sat up straight, staring at the doorknob as it turned slowly. When the door opened, Armin stepped inside, his hair slightly messy, his shirt clinging to him like he had been touched. His cheeks were flushed, his lips a little redder than usual. My stomach dropped. "Hey," he said, trying to sound casual, but his voice cracked just barely. "You're home early." "I live here," I said quietly. He flinched. He walked past me, heading straight for the kitchen sink to splash water on his face. He avoided looking at me the entire time. His hands trembled slightly, and his breathing was uneven. Guilty. So guilty. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Where were you?" He froze, the kind of freeze that only happens when someone hears a question they weren't prepared to answer. "With friends," he said. "Which friends?" He turned off the tap slowly, setting his hands on the counter as he stared down into the sink. I watched his shoulders rise and fall, his jaw tightening. "You don't know them," he said. Another lie. Something inside me snapped, not loudly, but quietly, like a string pulled too tight. I stood up, walking toward him. My voice was soft, too soft. "Armin, what's going on with you?" He turned around, finally looking at me, and in his eyes I didn't see frustration or anger. I saw fear, not of me, but of something he didn't want me to discover. "Nothing," he whispered. A whisper is the most honest volume a liar speaks in. Later that night, after he went to his room and shut the door, I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling. I could hear faint sounds through the thin walls, his footsteps, the bed shifting, the soft tapping of him typing on his phone. Each sound stabbed deeper into my thoughts. Around midnight, he opened his door quietly, too quietly. I sat up, listening. He moved through the hallway, his steps light, hesitant, as if trying not to wake me. The living room light flicked on for a moment, then off. Then the front door opened again, but only slightly this time, just enough for him to peek out. I could see the sliver of hallway light under my door. Was someone there? I crept forward and placed my ear against the wood. I heard his voice, soft, lowered, almost intimate. Yeah. I'm alone now. Alone now. The words hit me harder than I expected. He spoke again, quieter this time, but I caught fragments. Can't stay long, just wanted to see you. He doesn't know. My chest tightened painfully. He doesn't know. I pressed my palm against my mouth to keep myself from making a sound. Then, footsteps, but not just his. 2 sets. Someone had entered. Someone was inside our apartment. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stepped back quickly as the hallway light shifted under my door, shadows moving, shapes crossing. Whispered laughter. The kind you don't want to hear from the person you love. Then the sound I feared most, his bedroom door closing. Not alone, not anymore. I sank onto the floor, staring at the line of light under the door as it flickered faintly. My entire body felt numb, hollow, trembling. I knew I should leave, confront him, do something, but I couldn't move because this wasn't just betrayal. It was confirmation. He was falling in love with someone else, and he had brought that someone into our home. Inside his room, the voices grew softer. Closer. More intimate. I shut my eyes as a single question forced itself into my mind. Who was he willing to risk everything for? And what would I do when I finally saw the answer? If you want, I can now write the climactic moment, 800 to 1,200 words, in the same intense, slow burn, emotionally charged, suspenseful style. The next morning arrived too quietly. Sunlight crept into the room in thin, hesitant lines, as if even the day itself wasn't sure whether it should enter after what happened last night. I woke slowly, aware before I even opened my eyes that something between us had shifted. The air felt different, thicker, heavier, like the space itself remembered the almost kiss more clearly than either of us wanted to. He was already awake, sitting at the edge of his bed, shoulders tense, his fingers laced together so tightly they went pale. He wasn't looking at me. He stared at the floor the same way he did last night, as if answers might appear in the wooden grains if he focused hard enough. I sat up quietly, letting the blanket fall away. My throat felt dry and morning. I said, the word soft, cautious. He flinched, barely, but enough. Yeah, he muttered. The silence stretched between us, long and painful. It wasn't the comfortable silence we used to share, listening to music, laughing at small things, existing together without needing to speak. No, this silence was sharp. A reminder everything had changed, but neither of us was saying the words. He stood and crossed the room to grab his jacket. His movements were stiff, rehearsed, like he had played this scene in his head all night and still wasn't ready for it. We should get going, he said. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. No joke. No smile. No trace of the warmth he used to pour so easily into my mornings at just distance. I nodded and climbed out of bed. We both got ready without looking at each other. The small room felt impossibly large now, like the space had widened to match the emotional gap between us. When we finally stepped outside, the cold air slapped my face. He shoved his hands inside his pockets, head down, walking faster than usual. I followed a step behind, unsure if he wanted me closer or farther. We used to walk side by side. We used to bump shoulders, and now even our shadows refused to touch. Halfway down the street, he slowed. For the first time since waking, he looked at me, really looked. His eyes were tired, conflicted, scared. And something else I couldn't name about last night, he began. My heart tightened. This was it, the moment everything would either break or bend. He swallowed, searching for words. I don't know what it meant. I don't know what I meant. I'm still figuring it out. And I don't want to hurt you. His honesty both soothed and shattered me. I took a careful step closer, not touching him, just closing some of the space he had created. You're not hurting me. Not by being confused. I just need you to not shut me out. He looked away again, Jaw tense. That's the problem, he whispered. I don't trust myself not to. The street noise faded around us. People walked past, unaware of the quiet earthquake happening between the two of us. He breathed out slowly, like he was letting go of something heavy. Then he said it, soft, but devastating, maybe we need some space. My stomach dropped. I didn't respond at first. Couldn't. He wasn't asking. He was already stepping back, already pulling away. And maybe he needed it, but it still felt like a door slamming shut. Okay, I finally said, though the word tasted like ash. He nodded, relief and regret mixing on his face in equal measure. Just for a little while. Right. A pause. A long, aching pause. Then he turned and walked away, not hurried. Not slow, just gone. I stood there, watching him disappear into the morning crowd, feeling the chill of the city sink into my bones. For the first time, the future between us felt uncertain, blurred, fragile. Maybe he'd come back, maybe he wouldn't, maybe last night meant nothing. Or maybe it meant everything. I didn't know. All I knew was that whatever had started between us wasn't over, not yet, not really, and the silence he left behind felt like a promise, or a warning. I just couldn't tell which. If you want, I can now write. White heavy checkmark visual prompts for this section. White heavy checkmark a final title, description, and hashtags. White heavy checkmark a full compiled story, all parts combined. Just tell me what you need next. I still remember the way the air felt that evening, heavy, almost swollen, as if it were holding a secret it didn't want to release. Our family house in the village always had a strange quietness to it after sunset, but that night, the silence felt different, tighter. The kind of silence that makes you listen twice. I had come to stay for a week, something I hadn't done in years. Life had pulled me away, and honestly, so had memories I never found the courage to face again. But when my aunt called, insisting the family needed help preparing for the annual gathering, I couldn't refuse. A part of me wondered if she sensed it, the tension I tried so hard to hide. The thing I never spoke about. The thing we never spoke about. My cousin, Zion, was already there when I arrived. He stood in the courtyard, unpacking crates of decorations as if nothing had changed. As if years hadn't passed. As if the distance between us hadn't been built deliberately, brick by uncomfortable brick. He looked up the moment my car stopped. His eyes locked on mine longer than they should have. A faint smile, too faint, almost cautious, appeared on his face. Long time, he said, wiping his hands on his shirt. Yeah, I answered, even though a dozen other words crowded my tongue. We hugged, but even that felt loaded, like there was a third presence between us, our shared memory, our unspoken history pressing its weight on our shoulders. Inside the house, everything felt unchanged. The wooden cupboards, the faint smell of sandalwood from my aunt's incense, the old clock ticking too loudly in the hallway. These tiny details wrapped around me like vines, pulling me back to a time I had tried so hard to forget. But the real uneasiness crept in when my aunt casually mentioned something that made my chest tighten. Oh, by the way, she said while stirring tea, Zion's been different lately. Quiet. Distracted. Keeps to himself. Her words shouldn't have meant anything. And yet, they did. Later that night, after everyone went to bed, I stepped outside to get some air. The moon hung low, casting pale light across the courtyard. And that's when I heard it, footsteps. Slow, hesitant, almost as if the person wasn't sure whether they should continue. I turned. Zion stood there, half in the shadow of the doorway. You can't sleep either, he asked. I nodded, though the truth was I hadn't even tried. Something had been tugging at me the moment I stepped foot in the house. A strange pull, familiar, dangerous, and completely unwanted. He walked closer, the air tightening with each step. You know, he said quietly, I thought you'd never come back here. There was something in his tone, something buried but alive. Something we had both agreed, without words, to bury years ago. But if it was truly buried, why did it feel like it was rising again? And why, deep down, was I afraid that I already knew the answer? If you want, I can continue with high voltage sign rising action, 1,200 to 1,500 words, next. I stayed in my room long after his whispers disappeared behind the closed door. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, each beat a reminder of the truth I was too scared to face. Someone else was in his room, someone he let in, someone he didn't hide from. The air in the apartment felt different, warmer, heavier, charged with a tension I could almost taste. It seeped under my door like smoke, filling my chest with a tightness that made it hard to breathe. Around dawn, exhaustion finally pulled me under for maybe an hour. When I woke again, the apartment was silent, too silent. I sat up, listening. No movement, no voices, no soft laughter slipping through the walls, only the faint hum of the refrigerator. I stepped out into the hallway. The morning light filtered through the blinds, pale and cold. Armand's door was slightly open and the stranger's shoes were gone. I approached his door slowly, each step heavier than the last. I didn't knock. I didn't call his name. I just pushed the door gently with my fingertips. The room was dim, curtains half drawn. The bed was unmade, twisted sheets, the faint smell of cologne in the air. A scent I didn't recognize, and Armand sat on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. He looked up the moment he sensed me there. His eyes were red, not from sleep, from something else. Can we talk? I whispered. He nodded weakly. I walked in, but I didn't sit. I stood near the doorway as if stepping closer might break something fragile between us. Who was he? My voice trembled more than I wanted. Armand inhaled deeply. Someone I shouldn't have brought here. That doesn't answer anything. He stared at the floor. His name is Iron. The name felt like a punch. Simple. Sharp. Human. Are you seeing him? A long pause, too long. I don't know. He finally said. You don't know. I laughed, but it came out broken. You brought him here. Into your room. Into our home. It's not like that. His voice cracked. I stepped closer. Then what is it like? He hesitated again. And in hesitation, there is always a truth hiding. I didn't plan for any of this, he whispered. It just happened. I closed my eyes, trying to steady myself. When I opened them again, he was watching me, really watching me, for the first time in weeks. You've been distant, I said quietly. Avoiding me. Sneaking out. Hiding things. His eyes softened with guilt. I know. Why? He opened his mouth, then shut it again. His tongue darted out to wet his lips. His fingers twisted together. Every part of him screamed conflict. Finally, he stood up slowly and walked toward me, hesitant, like he wasn't sure if he still had the right to come close. I didn't want to hurt you, he said. Then why did you? Because? I didn't know how to tell you something. His voice dropped to a whisper. Something about us. My breath caught. Us. What about us? He looked away, eyes glistening. You feel something for me. My stomach tightened and he paused, swallowing hard. I feel something too. For a moment, the world tilted. My pulse jumped, heat rushing through me, hope, fear, confusion all colliding at once. Then why? Because it's not supposed to happen, he cut in. Not like this. Not between us. I stared at him. Not supposed to happen? Armand, you let someone else in. You brought him into your room while I panicked, he shouted suddenly, startling both of us. He dragged a hand through his hair, pacing now, his movements frantic. I didn't know what to do, okay? I didn't know how to deal with what I was feeling. With what you might be feeling. And then Iron came along, and he made it easy to forget. The word sliced through me. Forget what? I asked, voice barely audible. He whispered, silence thick. Suffocating. Unbearable. I felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. So you ran to someone else? I asked slowly. I didn't run, he said, rubbing his forehead. I slipped. I fell. I messed up. Armand, I stepped forward, forcing him to meet my eyes. Why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you talk to me? Because I didn't want you to confirm it, he said bitterly. If you told me how you felt, I wouldn't be able to pretend anymore. A cold shiver ran down my spine. So you chose to hurt me instead. His face crumpled. No. I chose to avoid the truth. But the truth didn't avoid me. The intensity between us grew, thick, charged, raw. He was close now, close enough that I could feel the heat of his breath. "I don't know what to do," he whispered. "I don't know who I'm supposed to be, with you, with him, with myself." My fingers twitched at my sides, aching to reach for him, to hold him, to pull him back into my orbit. But I didn't move because I didn't know if he wanted to be pulled. A sudden knock shattered the moment. We both froze. Another knock, louder this time. Armand's face drained of color. "Who is that?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He just stared at the door with an expression I had never seen before, fear. I moved toward the hallway, heart pounding, but Armand grabbed my wrist, tight, trembling. "Don't," he whispered urgently. "Please don't open it." "Why?" His voice shook. "Because I think it's him." A chill ran down my spine. "I ain't here again." The knocking grew more insistent, now a fist pounding on wood. "Armand," a voice called from outside, sharp. Angry. "I know you're in there. Open the door." My breath caught. Armand's grip tightened. "Please," he whispered to me. "Stay with me. Don't leave. Not now." But I had no idea who that knock was meant for, him, me, or the truth we'd both been running from. And in that moment, standing in the dim hallway with Armand's hand trembling in mine, one terrifying question echoed in my mind. What happens when all the secrets in a relationship finally collide at the door? If you want, I'll now continue with the falling action, 600 to 800 words, or adjust the climax's tone, length, or intensity. I always tell myself the same lie whenever he visits: don't look at him too long, and definitely don't let him notice. But tonight, even that feels impossible. The rain had been falling since late afternoon, soft at first, then heavy, like the sky couldn't decide how badly it wanted to cry. Our house always felt smaller on stormy evenings, every sound sharper, every shadow longer. I sat alone in the living room, listening to the steady hum of thunder rumbling somewhere beyond the hills, pretending to watch the glow of the TV while my thoughts drifted. I wasn't expecting anyone. My brother wasn't supposed to be home until tomorrow morning. He'd gone out of town for the weekend, leaving the house unusually quiet, comfortably quiet, actually. I liked the solitude. It kept my thoughts contained, tucked away where no one could see them. Then I heard it. A knock. Not loud. Not rushed. Just deliberate. My stomach tightened, breath catching in my throat. For a moment, I wondered if I imagined it. Maybe the rain was messing with my mind again. But then it came a second time, firmer, more certain. I opened the door, and there he was. Ethan, my brother's best friend, soaked from the rain, dark hair clinging to his forehead, chest rising with heavy breaths as though he'd been running. His shirt, half unbuttoned, stuck to his skin in a way that made my heart slam against my ribs. He wasn't supposed to be here, and not tonight, not alone, not with me. "Hey," he said, voice low, almost hesitant. "Your brother's not back yet, right?" I nodded, trying to keep my expression neutral. "He's out of town until tomorrow." "You look, wet. Smooth. Real smooth." He let out a soft laugh, the kind he only used when he was trying to hide something. "Yeah. I didn't really have anywhere else to go." Something in his tone made me pause. Ethan was always composed, always confident. Seeing him like this, unsteady, avoiding my eyes, felt wrong. Or maybe it felt too right, in a dangerous way I wasn't ready to unpack. I stepped aside to let him in. He hesitated, just for a second, just long enough for me to feel it, the tension, the weight of something unsaid hanging between us like the storm clouds gathering outside. When he finally crossed the threshold, droplets of rain falling onto the hardwood, I felt the shift immediately. As if the house recognized the intrusion of a secret neither of us had admitted aloud. My throat tightened. My thoughts raced. Why did he come here? Why tonight? And why did he look at me like that? Like there was something he couldn't hold back anymore. The door clicked shut behind him. The sound echoed, too loud, too final, too much like the beginning of something I wasn't supposed to want. Or was it the end of my ability to pretend? If you'd like, I can now continue with white heavy checkmark rising action, 1,200 to 1,500 words, or white heavy checkmark a visual prompt for each section, title, tags, and a thumbnail prompt. Just tell me what you want next.